Roll call, please.
Commissioners Markham,
Sorry, here.
Middleton,
Here.
Gershenson. I didn't hear Commissioner
Here.
Gershenson. Okay. McGillivray,
Here.
Quarles,
Here.
Powell, Long.
Here.
Wall is absent with notice. And Zach,
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Let me get my flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I need a motion for the approval of the budget hearing agenda. Commissioner Markham, supported by Commissioner McGillivray. Any discussion about the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed,
Aye.
say nay. Motion is approved. Do I have any public comment today? Andrea, you,
You currently have the public room open. There are no callers on for finance and infrastructure or budget hearings, and we have no online submissions.
thank you very much. Hearing that there's no public comment, I'm going to declare it closed. We have no communications this morning, no regular agenda, and we are going to move into budget hearings. And first up is our prosecutor's office, and I want to welcome you to finance and budget hearings. It's nice to have you.
Thank you.
So do you have any overview, anything, that you want to talk about particularly?
Well, we have, as you know, are a constitutional office. This is mandated by the Michigan Constitution, and I think that part of the things that we need to talk about will come a little bit later, unless you want me to talk about it now, and that's the problems that arose and will continue to arise because of COVID, and the fact that we do not have jury, and all of those cases are going to back up and are backing up because we cannot go forward with the jury. There have been several proposals with that, but to understand the nature of this office, and I think that sometimes we don't, is we have about 51 different judges that we are responsible for, whose dockets we're responsible for. We also have hearing referees, we have intake referees, and we are also in front of the Court of Appeals. In many cases, we now have applications to the Michigan Supreme Court. There are many oral arguments. We have an application for the United States Supreme Court. We have a federally mandated family support. And so it is a very huge operation. And with the COVID-19, the first thing that we did was pretty much even before the governor closed the schools, we sent home the individuals who were physically had physical impairments that made them higher risk. We also sent home people who had minor children because of the closure of the daycare centers. And it was an incredible effort to get everyone on Zoom, or to get people on the computer, because it was again, you're talking about 51 different judges who had 51 different opinions about how we're going to do that. And so we finally got that done. Circuit Court moved so smoothly. It was wonderful because of your technicians. But I think that some of the things that we forget is that I have a whole area that is not covered by the county. So we have 14 different locations for our district courts, and only four, and that's like only 4 of those are county courts. So we have 10 courts, district courts that are not involved with the county because they're not funded by the county. They're funded, say for instance, in Southfield, other places where those district courts are not county courts, and so that is something that complicates the funding process. Our budget is different. We're seeing a rise in white collar crime. We're seeing a rise in fraud, and as expected, and I think I've been all over the county talking about this, the rise in domestic violence. And that's what happens when you have volatile family situations and people who are in close contact, who don't have any respite from each other. And we're seeing those things. We're more concerned with the cases we're not seeing that turn into more violent situations. I will tell you that aside from those, violent crime is pretty well down. I will tell you, I was on a radio show the other day, and they said, we're talking about the murder rate. And I said, yeah, I'm very concerned because we're at 8 now. And he went, how many? And at 8. So we normally, in terms of the cases that we have, would never go past 20 in this county. It's a very safe county. What we are concerned with budgetary wise is that because we have no juries, because we have such a heavy docket, because the Supreme Court has done a wonderful job in giving us the phasing in and the phasing out. They are now going backwards. We were at phase, Paul is here, I should tell you. We were at phase 2, and now it looks like we may go back to phase 1 because they're calling for ways in which we're going to be able to do jury trials, and I'm not quite certain that we're going to be able to do that. Whatever happens in terms of what the Supreme Court decides, it's going to cost some money because we're going to be able and need to find a way in which we can conduct jury trials in a physical facility that was never in all of our wildest dreams going to be necessary. Okay, we never ever anticipated that people won't be able to sit next to each other, that you can't approach witnesses, that you won't be able to. So the courtrooms are going to have to be changed for in a long period of time, and we're not really certain how that change is going to come out. They were what we've done up here physically is we have put up some plexiglass for our secretaries who receive the public, but right now we're not even able to receive the public. And the difference is that some of the judges, what we were doing is conducting some of the preliminary examinations in person. Now, I think the Supreme Court is going to back us up on that too, because again, you have so many judges who have different concepts of how this should be done, depending on where they are. Some of them are from the county. Some of those district courts are, and I'm telling you, 10 of them, which constitutes, some of them have 2 people in it, some of them have 3 people in it, constitutes a goodly number of judges. That's the work that happens when those cases are bound over to circuit court, then they become our cases. And so in some senses, they're county controlled, and in other cases, they're not. We can talk to you. You asked a question about the fund balance. We couldn't really figure out what that meant. Perhaps you can answer that question for us.
These were the questions that were sent to you for ideas for discussion. And if you don't mind, I'd like to turn this open to the committee members and let them ask questions that they are concerned about, unless there's something else that you want to offer.
No, our major concern is the heavy, we're still working, people are working from home, they're working, and they started going into court. And now I'm afraid that the Supreme Court's going to back that up and everything is going to be remote. When we say remote, that doesn't mean that our people don't come in, because we are still paper, okay? Still a paper court. That means that people have to come in and pick up their files, and then they have to return them. And so when you're talking about the type of volume that we're talking about, you do have people coming in and out. So I think we need to be very concerned in terms of safety in that manner. We have some people who will come in after hours to pick up those files, so that they don't run into people. And now I'm
Thank
ready.
you. Okay,
great.
so I see Commissioner Middleton's hand.
Yes, thank you. The last year you increased the number of employees by 10. Was that because of the court case where prosecutors have to be present at the first hearing?
No, we've been the Michigan, it's the MIDC, the Indigent Defense Council, we've been trying to work with them. Now they don't want us present. We had some ideas in terms of how we could do this, and we submit these ideas, and right now we're not in control of who accepts them and who doesn't. But one of the things that we talked about last year was the fact that what we do in Oakland County on the weekends is we do have magistrates, and we are able to cover, and we cover for those courts that are not county courts, so that there can be arraignments. And what we had proposed is to expand that process, and we would have something at one end of the county and something at the other end of the county, so that we could have a way in which we could physically cover those arraignments. And that again was not accepted by wait, Paul needs to speak because he was
Commissioner?
invited.
Commissioner, I hope you can hear me. We had
Yes.
one,
We can, thank you.
Come this way then.
I'm sorry.
Wait, where's your thing? Here.
Okay. Commissioner, we had one attorney position increase because of family court added one docket for us. We
Okay.
then had increase in support staff that would assist in facilitating getting things like discovery out. So it's not a result of the MPDC commission. We did make a proposal to the county executive to staff the MIDC arraignments. It was rejected about 2 years ago. So the increase in staff is not a result of the MIDC. It's a result of the county re-adding a family court position.
So we still have to face the indigent problem.
Here's
We
why.
have- Okay,
The MIDC has rejected calls to have the prosecutors at the initial arraignment. They do not want us there.
oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
So
That's all.
thank you.
Okay, do I have other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you and welcome, Madam Prosecutor. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So just to follow up, I'm sorry. Just to follow up on what
I'm-
Paul had said, how do you feel about prosecutors not being present?
Well, basically, what happens is that the Supreme Court has never considered that a critical stage, but the MDIC does. We were more than willing to do that, but we could not physically, they did not physically want our program. And here comes Paul one more time. But the Supreme Court has not designated that as a critical proceeding.
The prosecutor is right. initial arraignment is different than a circuit court arraignment. An initial arraignment has not been deemed by the Michigan Supreme Court nor any court in Michigan as being a critical phase, meaning that it is a non-scheduled event, meaning that there are a lot of walk-ins. So because it's a non-scheduled event, for example, let's say a warrant or a ticket is issued for a driving while license suspended, a person may get notice that they have this outstanding complaint, and they can walk into the court at their convenience to be arraigned. We don't know when they're going to come in because it's a non-scheduled event. We had, in addition to suggesting maybe having more assistant prosecutors funded for covering these district courts, it became a stark reality that the county would, in essence, pay an attorney to sit in a courthouse and they may handle one arraignment during the entire day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't deemed to be economically feasible. What we have suggested to the district courts is that we have a centralized arraignment system, which is we would create 4 stations within Oakland County where all arraignments would take place at all the district courts, which would allow for staffing and funding. But the unfortunate thing is that is going to require cooperation from non-county courts, and they are unwilling to relinquish the authority that they have over their magistrates to allow for this coordinated docket.
I see.
And
Well,
I will also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I also think that one of the problems that we will be seeing, not simply with the arraignments, is the fact that we have 38 dockets, district court dockets, because of these non-county courts, and again, they're a tremendous amount. We have about 18 district court prosecutors, and so
And that doesn't count the magistrate.
and that doesn't count the magistrates, and you're correct. So we're in a situation where the only way that we can function with preliminary exams, with some of the state tickets that are written, with some of the misdemeanors, the only way that we are able to function is when we get the courts to cooperate with each other. And those of you who've had experience in the courtroom, you know that that is an incredible feat. But we've done it so far, but every once in a while, there are judges who just want to do it a different way.
And the proposal that we had, the staffing proposal, was an increase in our budget of $2 million.
Yeah. So the proposal that we had was a $2 million budget increase. And now we're very concerned. Again, and I keep repeating this, if there's anything, once we are through all of those phases that the Supreme Court wants us to do, right now we're going backwards. Once we go forward, we're going to have such an incredible backlog. I'm not really certain how the courts are going to be able to handle all of these trials.
okay, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Walden, as well. I'm doing a deep dive, my first time on finance, trying to impress my fellow commissioners. Can you please just remind me, you have a warrant and you have an appellate section on the budget. Is the warrant strictly a group that writes warrants or investigates warrants?
All right, so there's more to it. Okay, we have it's about 1/6 of our 3 floors. And what happens is that the investigations take place we have about 47 different agencies that we deal with. And there's something that we call Oak Video. And Oak Video is a designated line from the police agencies into the warrants division. So when we're dealing with something where someone is incarcerated, the police officers have to come into the warrants division in order to make their presentments. The vast majority of the warrants come in through this designated line called Oak Video, where they will present the police reports and make a request for a charge. What happens though is it's wonderful and they're all trained, but we would review them and we would say, no, we need this, or we need to have this particular witness re-interviewed, or we need to have medical records, or we need to have financial records, or we need all of these things before we are comfortable writing a charge. It is a very large thing, and depending on the situation in the county, what is going on in terms of crime depends on what happens. They have never been, since I have been here in 11 and a half years, they have never been without work. They are overburdened. This is not the time to ask for more because, but I'm telling you that they can always use that. We also have an appeals division. Those appeals are not only the appeals to the Court of Appeals, they're appeals to the Supreme Court, they're appeals from the district court to the circuit court. They're done for internally helping. So that's a very large division. We have a division that is funded basically by the federal government for child support. That's the difference in terms of the criminal charge of non-support, and that's a huge operation down there. Those people are still considered part of the budget, but again, that's funded by a grant from the federal government. We have a division of
Okay.
juvenile. You want more?
Okay.
Okay. Wait, I'm missing you. I
No,
can't hear.
I'm good. Thank you. I just wondered, what is the appellate?
Oh, the appellate.
What is the appellate?
The appellate
What-
division.
go-
All right, so what happens is that sometimes there are appeals from the district court judges to the circuit court. Sometimes there's a constitutional right of appeal from a criminal conviction, and that goes to the Court of Appeals. Sometimes it goes from the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court. Sometimes the Supreme Court will have instead of a full-blown argument, they will have something called a mini oral argument that they will specifically order on their own. We had a case, and we have another application pending in the United States Supreme Court on an issue and a case that we have. And so that's what the appellate division does. They also provide quick references sometimes when someone needs to be able to get to a case and they're in the middle of a trial. So it's a very intense case. Most of those people now have started to go into the courtroom because there is a huge remands from the Court of Appeals on ineffective assistance of counsel. When that happens, they have to go into the actual courtroom in order to have those hearings.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other questions from committee members? Commissioner McGilvray, and then followed by Commissioner Middleton.
Ms. Cooper, I'm wondering, as far as, were there any benefits or disadvantages to working remotely for your department?
Oh my goodness, yes. Most of the times, and even getting it set up and getting it continued. Sometimes the computers would be incompatible with the systems that the different the different district courts have. They were specifically incompatible with the sheriff's system. So the sheriff could not transport the defendants who were incarcerated, and his system was very different from the Zoom system, and it caused just incredible delays and incredible problems with it because we're so diverse with our systems that it is almost impossible to do. We're making do right now, but there's a lot of incompatibility, again, because we have systems, particularly in the district court, where the district courts are not part of the county process. So even if the county were able to get all of those systems on one Zoom, sometimes they didn't use Zoom. Paul, what were the name of some of the other systems that they used?
Zoom is the one that most of them are using because it's Supreme Court. I'm sure there's a couple of others, but I'm not sure their exact name.
But the sheriff's is different. What is his called?
Well, his is a Polycom system.
A Polycom system. You'd have to talk to him about Polycom systems because I have no concept of what that means.
Commissioner, getting back to your initial question, the advantages are obviously one of personal safety for all the employees who work for the county. The disadvantage, the main disadvantage, has been noted by a number of studies conducted by the Michigan Supreme Court, is Zoom is not a good system for doing contested hearings, and the vast majority of our hearings are contested. So, for example, if an individual comes to court and says, I want to waive my right to a preliminary examination, and I don't want to dive too deeply into the procedural requirements of that, that's easy to accommodate. But if a defendant turns and says, I want to have my right to a preliminary examination, I want the prosecution to prove by probable cause the crime was committed and I'm the person that committed it, that is a contested hearing. And Zoom is not designed to efficiently work with contested hearings. So the defense bar, for the most part, has kind of realized that it may be to their advantage at this point to push out these hearing dates. So we're seeing an increase in demands for preliminary examinations. So we're seeing an increase in contested hearings. And if we have to continue this for much longer, we are going to have to develop a system that is a lot more interactive and a lot more friendly that allows us to do these contested hearings, because the current system just is not working in that regard.
So to explain further, so for instance, here's a piece of paper, and this is critical to the exam, and it is, I can't hold it up and have you read it. I can't, there's no way to present some of the physical proofs. Sometimes there's no way to approach that particular witness who's testifying, but part of the problem is physical proofs.
Thank you.
The physical evidence. Okay. You asked me a question, we'll give you 3 paragraphs. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the summary sheet that Mike Andrews sent out to us, the Department Revenue and Expenses, total revenue adopted, and it starts at 2016. 2019 was, this is revenue, 483,000. 2020, 1,020,000, and then 21 back down to 483. What caused the bump in revenue in 2020?
Part of that was a grant that we had been fighting for a long time in terms of the advocates, the victim advocates. And they had been sitting on that for a very long time. And there was finally a large increase for the benefit of victim advocates. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that, they're there because we have a mandate under the statute to deal with victims and to help them understand that court proceeding, to get them through, and basically for a very long time, because we were Oakland County, we were not considered to be quote unquote eligible for the type of monies that we absolutely needed, and that loosened up for that 1 year, and we're not sure that that's going to come forward again. Now, the specific numbers, we're going to have to talk to the accountant, but I can tell you the battle that raged. And again, it was constant, and we would talk to people when we're talking about the needs that we have, and they go, "Oh no, you're Oakland County," and that presumption that we didn't need what we need. And so we won one battle. Whether the winning of that battle is going to continue, I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do I have other questions? Commissioner Markham.
I see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Ms. Cooper.
Yep.
So I have a couple of questions about personnel. In the analysis, it says the salaries of your assistant district attorneys are comparatively lower than federal prosecutors and those around us. Do you have any plans to change that? Have you, do you have a study going? Are you working with April Lynch and her department? Is it all part of that?
There was,
Do you,
I remember last year and the year before, there was a study going, and we've contributed to that study, but it seems to, with the COVID-19, it seems to have gone by the wayside. Everything is pretty well documented. We thinking that perhaps that might come forward. You're in the better position to tell us what is going to happen economically in this country. But my people right now come because they get such a specific training, and we weren't able to even put on the training because of the COVID-19, and that we've done absolutely every year. So that's the benefit. We will take the new attorneys and we train them, and then of course they move on. So if I can raise this issue, we have someone now who is going to the U.S. Attorney's Office in San Diego. We have someone who is going to be moving to out of the country, and then we have another person who is going to be going to an office in Philadelphia, because the monies are so much larger.
One of the major factors, one of the comparisons that is frequently made is between a prosecutor's office and federal prosecutor. But most state prosecutors' offices do not orient themselves similar to the federal prosecution system. For example, the federal prosecution system will pay an attorney based on the number of years of experience they have. The county does not do that. We do a slot system. Like we have so many slots for APA 3, so many slots for APA 2, so many slots for an APA 4. We did do a budget proposal about 4 years ago recommending increases for salaries, maybe 5 years ago, and that was also rejected by the county executive. So to answer your question, we participated in the job study, we have made recommendations, we have been met with resistance. The end result is quite simply this, as the prosecutor points out. People will stay here a couple of years and there is a turnover, and the county has to decide, is that the model they want to go, or do they want more experienced prosecutors?
okay, thank you. I apologize for the lawnmower outside my house. It's messing with the sound, wouldn't you know?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My other question relates to what's happened with COVID and the jail, where we reduced the jail population by, over half because we decided folks in there were not at risk. They were less of a risk to go home than they were to stay in the jail. So I'd like to hear what you think going forward we can do to keep that jail population down and be diverting people to better outcomes.
Part of that is the study that I got Paul on a working committee in terms of the bond, okay, and the bonds, and then that was assumed, that was an Oakland County group, and that was assumed by this huge state task force, and they issued their opinion in January of this year in terms of the bonds, okay, and that doesn't count the people who are under sentence, and there are a lot of people under sentence, and we can talk about that. But when we talk about the bonds, you had a lot of people who were there on traffic offenses that they couldn't make the bonds on. You had situations, and don't let me start on the friend of the court docket where they're putting people in jail for uh, contempt, for civil contempt. And what they're also doing is disallowing their constitutional rights. There are a lot of people in there on that position, and I scream and yell about that all of the time. But to deaf ears. But the bond situation, the being able to meet those bonds, having people in there on for minor offenses, those are the things that were addressed in the state task force. Those are things that just about all of us are in agreement on in order to keep that down. You will see, and I don't think that they necessarily address that you have a lot more sentences in the jail than because of the ability to look at the guidelines and to not be as severe as it is in terms of going to prison. So you had, when we looked at the lists, because we provided a list to the circuit court in terms of their cases that were sentenced. The sheriff did things on cases with people who were ill, and together what happened is we would present it to circuit court. The circuit court would present it to their judges, and as you know, the only people who can take them, who can amend that, are the judges. So we did what we could in order to help that be emptied out. But there is a bond recommendation. Again, it came right before COVID, so I'm not sure what will happen as a result of that. But they're asking legislators to decriminalize a lot of the traffic offenses, those type of things, and to use other methods aside from these high bonds. And they and again, that some of that stems from district court, but a lot of it stems from the courts that we can't control, that we have no control over except on appeals. So you're talking about the municipal courts that are not our county district courts. And here comes Paul's getting his exercise. He's coming back. He wants to add. I'm sorry.
Commissioner, it's important to understand what the jail population is. Some of them are under a sentence, a district or circuit court sentence. Some are under a conditions of bond, and it's a multifaceted approach to dealing with it. So one thing that we have recommended, for example, probably some things such as tether. Tether companies out there vary as to their quality and their expense. We do not seem to have a current vendor system that kind of oversees the quality that we're getting on things like costs for individuals. Individual courts are using their own tether company in cases where they feel it's appropriate. We have made recommendations for this. One of the weird things is when I was on this study group for like the studying bonds, none of the legislators understood the idea of the Interim Bond Act and how that would affect or impact the jail. So we had to have some focus groups on that. If a individual is under a sentence of the court to jail, the court sua sponte on their own regard can amend the sentence at any time. And so the one problem with that is that the way the system is designed now, that when a sentence is completed, the court will usually discharge the defense attorney from their obligations to their client. So there is no subsequent review of their sentence at a later date. One recommendation that we've made is simply this, is that the court, in the Reno funds, that the court should have that attorney assigned until the person completes the conditions and terms of their sentence. So when appropriate, they can bring this to the courts. Say, look, my client's been doing well in jail. He's completed this program. Would the court be willing to modify a sentence and let him or her out early? So those are some pragmatic recommendations that we've made. They've been received with varying degrees of receptiveness, but just some suggestions.
Thank you very much. You educated me this morning. I did not realize that the district courts being some of them in the cities and some of them run by the county, presents complications that I was not aware of before. So thank you for that. I don't have any other questions, Madam Chair.
Is anybody else in the committee? I have a question. How was this budget prepared? My understanding is that, that you did not meet with the county exec. And I heard several times that, to review this budget, that there have been some requests made to the previous county exec about staffing and issues. But,
Well,
I don't.
I met with the county exec on another matter, which I'm sure that, I don't know whether he or whoever is going to be there is going to be able to address at this time. But we met on an issue, and Hillary was there when we talk about the need for a defense bar, and what we really wanted to have was a defender's office that. Right now, to talk to you about the capital expenditures that would have to be made for that. But I can tell you that in the long run, it would save a great deal of money, and it would also provide better representation for the defendants. And it wouldn't necessarily mirror ours because we have other divisions that the defense bar might not be concerned with. But basically, they have it in Wayne County, they have it in Macomb County, again, as part of the MIDC. And so we met and had a very long discussion. And then I guess politics got all in the way and we never got to meet again. In terms of financing, in terms of the budget itself, I believe Paul meets with our budgetary people on a regular basis. Oh, look at this. This stuff is coming, you can't even see me.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And we will move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I do this.
Okay, next we move on to public services.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Mark Newman, Director of Public Services. I want to say we appreciate the opportunity to present our budget to your committee. And as you know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So we have you audio wise. We don't get to see your lovely face.
Well, I'm over at the animal shelter. I don't know if you're aware of this, but yesterday we lost an employee tragically, and we brought in grief counselor this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I wanted to be here today.
That's where you need to be.
Yeah.
Very sorry to hear, and I'm glad you've got the employee assistance program there for your staff.
Yes, thank you. So the Public Services Department, as you know, has gone through some restructuring recently, and that took place after we had prepared our budget. So because of that, today we're not going to present veteran services. That will come to you later, along with some more discussion with economic development. But we are going to include Michigan State Extension. They're going to present today, even though they have been moved under the Health Department, but they'll be presenting today. And for them, we have our Administrator Sheila Letty and the Regional Director for Michigan State Extension, Mr. Ed Scott. They'll be presenting. Also, we'll have the other managers from the other divisions will go ahead and present the budget to you. If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions to ask? Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you. So procedurally, just advise me, I have questions specifically for the animal shelter. Do they do a presentation first, or do I ask my questions first?
Well, each division is going to present, so however you'd like to do it, Commissioner.
Okay, I'll wait then.
Okay. So we're going to start out with Bob Gatt, the manager of animal control in the Pet Adoption Center.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are very happy with the services that we are providing to the public. The COVID crisis has affected so many people in so many different ways, but I want you to know that since the beginning of this, every employee at the animal shelter has been working on the premises, taking care of the needs of the 4,000 plus animals a year that we encounter, and the citizens. We're now open to the public on an appointment only basis, and although that is different from the way we used to work, it has proven to be I think a bonus to not only the public but also to the animals and to the staff. This way, every person that comes into our shelter has a staff member assigned to that person, and they are escorted around the shelter. Their needs are met, and we're doing better work, I think, than before. So kudos to our shelter staff. What Mr. Newman said, I do want to just reiterate that we did lose. We lost a staff member yesterday, a very young and very popular, very energetic staff member passed away unexpectedly, and the staff is well, they're shocked and they're in grief, but we do have a grief counselor on the premises as we speak, as a matter of fact, meeting with staff. So our budget as presented is something that we can live with, that we are operating and still able to provide the world-class service that people have come to expect, that you have come to expect, and we don't have any questions or problems with what's presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, thank you, Bob and Mark. Is Joni on this call as well?
Joni is on the call.
Okay.
Yep,
and
I'm here.
To Joni too. Hi there.
Hi.
So I would like to commend the shelter for all the good things that you've done. I had the pleasure of chairing an animal welfare committee, and Joni was a critical part of this committee, as were some of your volunteers, in particular, the volunteer group called Do Only Good, which their acronym is DOG. And I was pretty floored by the services that this volunteer group is providing. But first, let me say, Bob, that one of the outcomes of the assessment, as you know, is of the committee was to have an assessment. So we're in the process of getting that together now. But it was made pretty clear during this committee that the shelter could use more staff. And I'm a little surprised that that isn't included in your budget request.
Well, let me address the study first. Yes, the Board of Commissioners has implemented an outside study to come in and assess our shelter, and we are 100% cooperating. I understand right now that the board staff is working on an RFP. We look forward to that process. As far as the staffing, we're certainly making do with what we have, and as I said, we're providing the class of service that the people are expecting, and it's a little premature for me to talk about what will come after the study, because I look forward to having an objective group come in and take a look at our operations. They may determine that we need more people. They may not. Now, part of that study, Commissioner, as I understand it anyway, is when the study is done, then my staff will have a certain amount of time to come forward with a proposal and a budget for a TNR program, trap, neutered, and release. And we anticipate more staff being needed for that, but again, it's premature to say because we want to see what the study concludes.
Okay, that makes total sense. I can really appreciate that. I will be very surprised if the assessment doesn't reveal the need for more staffing. I just wanted to be sure that the commissioners were aware of the work that this Do Only Good Animal Rescue is doing, strictly on a volunteer basis, and I have asked them to keep me updated. They participated in the on the committee, and this group is still during COVID at the shelter 7 days a week for at least 4 hours a day, and they've placed all but 5 dogs into foster, a total of 92, and they have incurred this shelter. I mean, this Do Only Good Animal Rescue has incurred approximately $8,000 in expenses to their nonprofit. Bob, do they get any money from the county?
They don't get a penny from the county, Commissioner, and you hit the nail on the head. They're here 7 days a week. They've been here 7 days a week, and I'm talking about Christmas morning and Easter morning and snowstorms and heat waves. They're unwaveringly dedicated to the animals in our shelter, mostly the dogs, and they've adopted over 600 dogs in the last couple of years. So they are truly incredible people. Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that this committee, the Animal Welfare Committee, revealed is that there are other volunteer agencies that would be very interested in participating. And so one of the things I'm hoping the assessment will reveal is perhaps a volunteer coordinator, or perhaps
well, you know, we
giving
have a young lady that's designated as a volunteer coordinator, but I agree with you. We are open. We have several volunteer groups that come in, by the way, not just DOG. DOG is just so much more robust than everybody else. They stand out. But we are open to any volunteer group that wants to come in. The same, I don't want to say rules, but the same parameters apply to them as would apply to DOG. A Board of Commissioners resolution from years ago provides that certain rescue-only dogs are given to the rescue groups at no charge to them other than the price of a license. And then that group, DOG included, you know, they charge a small fee to the people who are adopting those dogs. So that's how they recover the monies that they spend on the operation. But it's not just limited to DOG. Any group, any bona fide 501c3 rescue is welcome to come in here. I'm not hearing.
Gary, do you want to mute, please, Gary?
So they are getting some
You're cutting out, Commissioner. I don't.
compensation for the dogs they are adopting out.
They do charge a fee
Correct.
for their dogs that they adopt out, and that fee
I have.
includes some.
Yeah.
You're cut. I can't hear.
I think your screen froze.
Yeah, Commissioner Gershenson, you might want to turn off your
Thank
video.
you. I want a clarification. And I would also like a list of agencies that are volunteering, but I hope.
Commissioner Gershenson, I don't know if you can hear us. You might want to turn off your video so we go only audio. You're breaking up.
I think she froze.
Oh. turn off the
Okay.
video. I hope you guys can think.
Okay, is that it, Commissioner Gershenson? Okay, Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, I have a question. With COVID-19, has there been an increase in adoptions or animals that are being surrendered to your facility?
Not anything of note, no, sir. Our numbers are pretty steady, and so far, both our adoption numbers and our give-up numbers are remaining pretty steady. Nothing, no big, spike.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Long.
Hello, Bob. Thanks for the presentation. Just on your sale, I'm just curious on your sale of your licenses. Your revenue was 1.1 million or 1 million about. Is the license down right now with COVID?
So the license sales are, yes, the license sales are down. We're down about 25%. And from an action of the board, we're not charging a delinquent fee. So our revenues will be decreased this year for our license sales. We do have a very robust program where every Friday you can drive by and see for yourself. We have several of our young census staff out selling licenses to the public. We've been advertising that on our Facebook pages and our web pages, and it's been a very successful program. So we're doing our best to sell the licenses because it is state law to have a license. But to answer your question succinctly, our revenues will be down, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions for Mr. Gatt. I just want to say I adopted a dog out of the shelter last October through the DOG group. And except for the fact we haven't given him all the training he needs, he's been a great dog. The situation was really easy. It was inexpensive for my son to get a dog, and I really appreciated everything that happened in that process. And I encourage people, get your dogs from the shelter. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Other questions? I have a question for Barb. Thank you. So how are you faring during COVID? Your business is really different right now. Are are staff working at all? What's happening?
Yes, it's been very different. So first of all, good morning, commissioners. When we initially drafted this budget back in May, we were only about a month and a half into the COVID crisis, and we had no idea how it was going to really impact our operations. So we did all go remotely to begin with. As of July 6th, I did call most of my staff back into the office. As the prosecutor, sort of a similar theme as with the prosecutor. While we're automated and the sheriff's department is automated and the courts are automated, none of us are integrated. And so we still rely on a lot of paper coming into the office. And quite frankly, I and three of my staff came in the entire time in order to receive faxes and sort through them and scan them and send them where they needed to go. But obviously you can only do that for so long. So much of my staff is back in the office. Some continue to work remotely because of they're designated in a vulnerable population. But we are not technically open to the public. All of our groups that our Step Forward program is doing is all being done through Skype. We ordered cameras so that the staff can still have some face-to-face interaction with the clients that they serve. But one of our biggest things is we had to close our WAM program, the weekend alternative for misdemeanors, which many of the district courts rely on. It's a work crew program. You may recall that basically those individuals who are sentenced to that program meet at our facility, and we would drive them in vans to various locations around the county. Obviously, we can't provide the social distancing required for that program. And we just sent notice to all of the district courts that basically that program will be suspended through the end of December. And so that's going to be a hit to our revenues because we can't make it work right now.
Thank you. WHAM has been invaluable in some of my communities doing community service projects and throughout the county. It's been wonderful. So thank you for adapting and hopefully learning opportunities if we can improve upon our communication electronically as we move forward. And any other questions? I want to thank all of you for coming, and once again, my condolences to your staff at the Animal Care Center. And
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Central Services, and welcome, David Henry. You're still with us. Thank you for staying.
If I told you what I had to go through this morning, you're early. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I have with me Cheryl Bush, the Manager of Aviation, and Todd Burko, Manager for Support Services. They've both done excellent jobs in preparing their budgets. And so we're here to discuss it. And I guess I'll start out. Do you want to go first with aviation or Central Services, Madam Chair?
You're in charge.
Okay. We'll start with aviation. That starts with an A. We'll go alphabetically. I think as most of you know, we are the air transportation branch of our transportation system in county government. We're really the only local government in the state of Michigan to own and operate 3 airports. The main one being Oakland County International, which is the second busiest airport in the state of Michigan to Detroit Metro. I think it'll come as no surprise to anybody to learn that aviation has been hit particularly hard by the COVID-19 crisis. Airlines are down by 80-90%. The good news, I guess, if there's any good news than that for us, is that we're down 28%. And that's because general aviation, that's the business, the corporate traveler, the air charter, the air freight, personal, air ambulance, medical, all that put together is who we serve. And as I say, we're down 28%. So we're not hit as hard as the rest of them. That being said, our budget is balanced for the coming year. We think we're going to survive just fine. And so Cheryl is with us. If you have any detailed questions about the budget, I'll invite her to participate. I would point out a couple of noteworthy items for next year. Our main runway at Oakland County International Airport was last resurfaced 10 years ago. Frankly, the pavement is getting tired, and we have found over the years that potholes don't work in runways. So it needs to be resurfaced. The federal government is making available it's a $10 million program. They'll be making a grant available, and it's usually 90% because they've introduced into that grant some care funds. And so this will be 100% financed by the federal government. This one's on the House, as it were. The second project that we should discuss as part of the oncoming budget is the airport. Over the years, at the FAA's direction, we have no choice on this. We have to use in our firefighting foam a chemicals called AAAF, which has PFAS in it. We are working with the Eagle Department at the state level to address the situation. By that I mean to check the airport and see if we have any contamination. The good news is we've only used it 11 times since 1996, and they're all of the incidents are related to actual crashes and accidents. we're required to practice annually with the joint fire departments for Waterford, White Lake, so forth, in our area. And we have annual, as I say, annual practices. The good news is we use water and not chemical. So we have no pollution from practicing, which usually is the big cause of pollution at airports. It's not because we knew at the time or have ever known that PFAS was a harmful substance. It's because, frankly, we were too cheap. It cost a lot of money, and we decided we'd better practice with water. Obviously, it inured to our advantage now. So we will be undergoing a study. The state will be making available about $100,000 grant to install wells to monitor equipment to monitor the wells. Excuse me, and so we'll see what happens as we go in the study. I'm not particularly worried. I think we're in pretty good shape. But anyway, those are two items: the runway and that study that I need to call to your attention for this year's budget. That we include in this year's budget. So with that, I'll be happy to entertain, and Cheryl's here. Any questions you might have?
Any questions from the committee members? Commissioner Markham and then Commissioner Middleton.
Commissioner Markham, the chairman of the airport committee.
All right, I know just enough to be dangerous. So my question is about the Southwest Oakland Airport, that little one out by me. We took a tour of it last year. I thought that was really helpful to the airport committee. It certainly was to me to really get a sense of all the airports and what they do. That one clearly is underutilized and in somewhat disrepair a little bit. It's still functional, but it's got issues with drainage and so on. And I know Sean is talking about potentially looking at it as future development for economic development. Do we have anything in the budget that reflects any attempts to study or upgrade that airport?
Well, regardless of our feelings, the FAA has made it painfully clear that you're going to run that as an airport and operate as an airport. And if you don't, we're now going to render you ineligible for federal aid for either your other two facilities, Oakland Troy and Oakland County International. So at this point, they have made it, as I say, painfully clear, we are going to remain in the airport business down there. That said, we need to maintain it at a basic level. As you pointed out, Mrs. Markham, it's underutilized. We are undergoing a study as we speak with the state to determine, the first thing is safety, of course, and we're keeping the runway together, frankly, with Band-Aids. We're doing crack filling and taking out some bad areas, but also most important from a safety standpoint are the approaches to the airport. And we're now doing a study to see where the penetrations are and what remove any trees, branches, and so forth that might be in the way of descending and ascending flights. So we're going to keep it going. We're going to do the best we can with it, and we have a program of priorities delineated with the state and the federal government.
Thank you.
Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, my question was about Southwest also, and Gwen's answer took care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions here? Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions from the committee about central services?
Well, we haven't done support services yet, Madam Chairman.
I know you still have another section.
Yeah, right. Are we set?
Are there any other questions? Do you want to talk about the other section or
Sure.
fine?
Okay. Todd, you're there, correct?
Yes, Dave. Good morning,
Okay.
Commissioners.
Yeah, Cheryl, thank you. This division really supports the other county departments. We have vehicle operations, mail, record retention, and food services. In putting together, addressing the vehicle section first, fuel is pretty cheap now, so Todd has been able to reduce the budget for purchasing of fuel down to $2 a gallon, and that's going to save us about $330,000. He's altered the depreciation schedule for the sheriff's patrol, some of the patrol cars, the SUVs. New SUVs, we're going to start. We're going to extend the depreciation schedule, which will result in a savings the first year of about $52,000, and in the second year, 2022, about $113,000. So with those two adjustments, I would say the facilities remained open. We've kept all the county fleet operating and in a safe fashion. They've desanitized sanitized the entire fleet. So that's in a nutshell the vehicle operations. We maintain a pretty constant number of 882 vehicles, about half of which are with the sheriff's department. The mail center, we should address we have about 2.2 million pieces of outgoing mail. We're dealing in the COVID activity. We're now centralizing. We've kept the mail going to all the departments, but we've made a change in the delivering of packages, FedEx, UPS, freight, and so forth. That has been necessary for one, as a security standpoint, and two, of course, with COVID-19 safety. And with the reduction of people in the buildings, we've been able to maintain deliveries. However, as the county gets up to full speed, we'll need to re-examine a centralized delivery system. And if we retain it, then we'll require a budgeted amendment later on, probably a couple of people in another vehicle. So with those for next year, that's about the changes in support services. Todd, do you have anything else to add?
No, Dave, I think you covered it pretty well. We adapted well to the COVID and picked up a few new functions. One of the other things the mail center did initially is we were a distribution center for personal protection equipment for Homeland Security and the health department before they shifted that operation down to the building on Telegraph Road.
Thank you for doing that. That was, we appreciate it. We used our resources wisely. Questions? I have a question for you. One of the initiatives, do we have a diverse group of employees in your area?
I feel we do, and we make good efforts on our hiring practices to try to diversify our employees.
Cheryl, are you still on? Oh, Madam Chairperson, if I might just.
I am here.
Something. We have annually a day out at the airport. We call it Aviation Day. And it's an effort we work with Franklin former Judge Nestor on. And we invite 60 children from the city of Pontiac out to tour the airport and to learn about careers in aviation. We have a shortage of diversity among pilots. So we bring them out to the airport. We show them they can be pilots, they can be mechanics, and we give them each an airplane ride and give them a tour of the tower and bring out lectures from airline pilots and military personnel. And it's an effort that we've made to bring some diversity into the aviation community. We're also trying to get some programs going at the community college or even the Oakland ISD level to make it aviation more attractive to more people.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from the committee members? Thank you for joining us this morning and stay healthy.
Thank you, likewise. Good day, folks.
And we are moving on to facilities. I only see presently 4 committee members live, but do we still have a quorum?
Yes, we have Commissioner
I
Griffin.
called in, Commissioner Zach. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
We still have a quorum.
okay, thank you. Okay, so facilities, hello. We have Art Holdsworth, Director of Facilities. Is that the correct title?
Michelle there, please.
Director of Facilities Management. Joe and Ed are on our here as well.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any opening remarks for us?
Well, just a real quick commentary about what we do as a department. Shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. While we don't provide as a department services directly to the public, we are supporting all of the county's departments in their efforts to provide services to the public. We are responsible for the planning and design and project management for all the construction and renovation CIP projects that you see come across your table at the committees. The FM&O division is responsible for maintaining all the buildings, doing all the grounds work, providing custodial services, building safety, security of all the buildings, and so on. During this time of COVID-19, planning and engineering has been working with every department and every building to set up their facilities for social distancing. So they've been crazy busy with that for the last 3 months. FM&O has been supporting Emergency Operations Center and Homeland Security and all the PPE and other work that they've been doing. We've been assisting the health department with their testing sites, and again, in terms of physical setup and cleaning and so on. So it's been a busy time for us. We have 100% of our staff working currently. FM&O, they're almost 100% on site. Planning and engineering is it's almost 100% remote, but staff come on site to visit with the departments, physically examine the space when it comes to setting up for social distancing and so on. And at this point, I'll just open it up to any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Long.
Good morning, Art. On page, if you have the budget by you might know it just without answer, but I'm on 187, professional services, you have budget at 300,000. What does that include for your department?
Can you tell if that's in the planning and engineering or in the FM&O?
Oh, I'm in the page 187, so I guess I'm in, what am I in? I'm just in the general purpose, I guess, so it's all of them probably lumped in.
The reason I'm asking is we have professional services in both FPE and FM&O. Ed and Joe,
Well, I guess if you can tell me what's in both, I don't see the other, oh, where, here's engineering. I was on the other, I guess I'm in, oh, they're the same numbers. 300,000 budgeted, so they're the same number. So I guess what are some of your professional services include? That would be fine.
Yep. Ed, you want to start out?
I sure will. Commissioners, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, currently for this year, there is 300,000 in that line item proposed for this new budget 2021. It's been reduced down to about 227,000. And we use those funds when we have larger projects or projects that are very hot and need to be done right away. As you may all be aware, the planning and engineering group is not a very big group. We only have about 13 people in our group, and probably only 8 of those are project managers. My group is made up of architects and engineers and folks with construction management backgrounds, but we really need the help of outside vendors to keep up with our workload and help us with some of the larger, more complicated projects. So a lot of that funding will be used to hire just that, outside architects, outside engineers, outside construction managers.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, do you want to talk about your professional services line item and what you use it for?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Similar to Ed, that is for engineering services, could be environmental services and projects where we may have some environmental issues. And then also a lot of that is used for Paul Zackhouse. He's our property management and resources that he may need to help buy and sell or list properties or do that research. So basically, in a nutshell, I think we're at $142,000 and similar activities to what FPE does with theirs.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just tagging along for a moment on Commissioner Long's question. So in the executive's plan, he says we're going to do this comprehensive energy audit for the county, across the county campus. Is that reflected in these professional services line item, or is that reflected in the budget at all?
It is not part of right now, it's not part of the plant facilities management professional services line item. That funding, once we have a firm bid number, we'll go through the budget task force and we'll determine a funding source at that time.
Okay, thank you. Talk a little bit about what your department has learned about the campus footprint and what you see us doing going forward to potentially consolidate, reduce, optimize what we've learned so far?
Well, we learned about anything in particular, Commissioner, that you're referring to?
No, just an overall sense that we knew we were really going to make adjustments through the COVID, and it looks like some operations maybe don't need to be done on site, or some operations can be combined. I just wonder if you've got any sense of changes that we should be looking at permanently to gain efficiencies and cost savings.
Well, I know that, I can speak to our department specifically. But before I do that, just one general comment, as I've been, visiting all the buildings on campus, it is very clear that the majority of staff right now are working remotely in all the departments. I can't speak to, how successful they're all operating, but it's interesting that we've been able to operate as well as I believe we have for so long with almost everyone remotely. Within my department, an example of that is planning and engineering. I only see 1 or 2 of the PMs in at any given time. I do know that they're out in the buildings visiting with the departments, but they have been very successful working remotely. And to be honest, I could see that continuing even beyond the COVID crisis. On the flip side, our division that Joe heads up, which is all, again, grounds and custodian and all that, they have to physically be on site. And so that type of operation really doesn't lend itself to remote operation. And I think that's going to be true of several departments, but those departments would have to answer that question for themselves, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, this is Ed Joss. I can add a comment if you'd like.
Sure, thanks.
I don't know if this follows your question, but from the perspective of planning and engineering, we are taking maybe a slightly different approach to what we're doing. So, when we get requests to renovate spaces or move people, we are definitely keeping in mind the future of the workspace, right? And the future of the office. So rather than just receiving a request and reacting to it, we're actually taking a step back and thinking about it, talking to the departments and asking them, when we're, we've turned the corner on COVID, how do you see your operations changing? Will you continue to work remotely? And I think in a lot of cases, as I mentioned, a lot of the departments will be able to. You might have, some departments or divisions working from home 2 to 3 days out of the week. And if that's the case, then, we were at a point there for a while where we were, constantly looking for more office space. Whereas now we're not so sure we're going to need it. And we're starting to think about how we could consolidate and have a need for less space, possibly then getting groups working in the same building where it makes more sense to have them adjacent to each other because they work closely together, or because the public that comes in for service needs to go to Department A and then they leave there and they go to Department B. So it's definitely something that is on our mind and we're keeping in mind as we're moving forward with new designs and new projects.
That's very encouraging that you're being proactive about it. I'm glad to hear that. We did hear from the prosecutor today that there's a lot of issue with courtrooms and jury trials being backed up because we can't handle having juries. Do you have any insight as to where we're going with that? Or have you guys been consulted on that?
Yeah, Kevin Offner has been including us in discussions of proactively planning for on-site trials. In fact, there's a meeting coming up next Friday about one that might be happening in August. So, and we've done that at least once already. So what we've done is we've tried to figure out, okay, how do we ensure the proper social distancing when we have a relatively large jury pool that has to be on site, and we've got, the two legal teams that are going to be in the courtroom, all the clerks and so on. I believe we've done a really good job of ensuring the proper social distancing in the courtroom, and as we're moving people through the courthouse to and from those courtrooms. So I believe it's been successful. Those have been, one-off situations though. If this COVID situation continues and the jury trials start back up, full swing like they were before, it'll be very difficult to maintain that proper social distancing in every case. The courtrooms are, right on top of each other on every floor of the tower, for example, so.
So it's looming out there. Okay. The last question I have relates to electric car charging. Any plans to put some electric car chargers in, hook up the ones in the commissioner's parking lot? This is for me and Marcia.
As you know, we have the infrastructure in place for that. It's just a matter of putting in the charging station. As part of the campus sustainability plan that we hope to have the study conducted for this fall, that obviously is going to be part of it. and not just at the courthouse, but at other buildings on campus as well. Then, of course, it'll be a matter of where is that funding going to come from that both administration and the board will have to determine. But unfortunately, I don't have a short-term answer for that question at this point, Commissioner.
Okay, that's all right. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Other questions? I have a question. You know, I'm looking at the analysis that our staff did for us, and from 2019 to 2020, we actually went down 10 employees, and we've stayed that for 2021. Looking forward, are we staffed appropriately, or is it hard to say? You know, we're doing things differently. Obviously, your staff has been very busy adapting our buildings and facilities during COVID. What do you see moving forward?
Well, I mean, in general, the fewer staff we have, the longer it takes to get things done. That's true of both FM&O and planning and engineering. I know that over the last few years, some of that staffing reduction has been by trading part-time positions for full-time positions and gaining some efficiencies that way. Joe's group, his chiefs have done a great job of utilizing better equipment, for example, to get more productivity out of their staff. We've also depended on contractors, for example, custodial contractors, to compensate for reduced staffing and so on. But we have a fixed number of acres, we have a fixed number of square feet for buildings, and they've all got to be maintained properly. So we can't reduce staffing any further, and hopefully be able to gain back a few of those positions over time so that we're staying up on the preventive maintenance, proactively replacing old assets before they break down. We unfortunately run into those unexpected breakdowns every year. You see those reflected in the resolutions we bring to you, and we obviously try our best to avoid those. But it takes staff time, of course, to do that.
No, I'm not suggesting cutting your staff. I'm just trying to understand it. But I do think as we move forward, that our footprint in buildings, I would surmise that we're going to reduce space and then say, what do we do with that? How do we consolidate? You know, based on new work situations.
Right. Well, we have plenty of metrics based on square footage, staffing metrics based on square footage in the FM&O world that we could use, so that if, you know, 2 buildings were taken offline, for example, we would know very accurately what the impact would be on staffing levels.
No, that's good to know. Okay. Do I have any other Yes, Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Art, I'm just curious if you can give us a history regarding the possibility of a solar farm, if there's been any investigation. That would be a solar farm someplace on campus that would be used to provide electricity throughout the complex.
The 80 acres that we purchased from the old Clinton Valley State Hospital is, in my opinion, a very good possible location for a solar farm. And I've included that as a line item in the outline for the sustainability plan that we're going to undertake this fall. I do believe that's a very viable possibility. Again, it's all going to come down to what funding is provided to actually implement the plan. That, you know, will, as part of that sustainability plan, we'd run a return on investment for that solar farm possibility. Another thing that we're going to be doing a little bit longer term is decommissioning the steam plant we have on campus. It's nearly 90 years old. The boilers are coming up on needing replacement, and it's very hard to get boiler operators anymore. So as we do that, we're going to be switching to as much electric generated HVAC systems in all the buildings on a standalone basis as we can. So the natural gas demand will go down, the electricity demand on campus will go up some. The overall cost picture we would anticipate would go down for energy, for utility costs. So again, if we had a solar farm, for example, on campus, as we're migrating more towards electrical systems, that, you know, that's a perfect matchup.
Thank you.
Do I have other questions here? I know that our deputy county exec, April Lynch, is behind the scenes. Do you have anything that you would like to offer? You're muted.
Sorry, I had to be on two different platforms here to be heard. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, I think they covered it. We have a lot of research to do this year as it relates to facilities, really trying to focus on not only the sustainability plan, but really looking collectively at all of our capital improvement programs and projects that we might have in the queue. I think, again, we've mentioned it throughout that COVID has really had an impact on really rethinking how we're doing business and who needs to be on site. I think Art and his team have already identified some older buildings that may be something we want to consider pulling offline if we find this to be conducive. But then more than that, too, is understanding how all of these capital improvement projects that we need to do fit with each other. You know, for instance, there's, you know, we still need to work through our ADA needs. We have electrical needs. We have sprinkler needs. And then you kind of look at them as a whole and find that, you know, in 1 year you might look at ADA in the circuit court, but then 2 years later you planned electrical work, then you need sprinkler work, how those can combine and really understand collectively all of the capital projects that we have, as well as how much that potentially costs. We have some courts that are also struggling with space. So taking all of that into consideration and understanding that bigger picture over time, we can also take a look at a stronger funding mechanism, as well as integrating those environmental projects as well. So we're really excited to kind of dig into that this year, and we're working really closely with our team to bring a lot more recommendations back over the course of the year.
Thank you. Any other questions from my committee? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and engaging in budget hearings. And I want to thank Finance for doing 2 days in a row, the committee members, and any other business to come before the committee. Yes, Commissioner Long.
Sorry. So do we know when our next budget hearing is yet or no? Did we get an email to that effect?
We have a schedule, and let me pull it out. We are doing budget hearings next on Wednesday, July 29th at 10 a.m. We have information technology, and 11 we have the sheriff's office.
Okay, so we got an email with that? I have to just look through
Yeah,
all these
but
emails.
you know something, if committee members would like the schedule sent out again, Mike Andrews, could you do that, please? The latest and greatest, just to make sure everybody has it in front of them. And then after that, our next hearing will be Thursday, August 6th.
Okay, thank you.
9:30.
Madam Chair, this is Nancy. It looks like the intent is, looking at the schedule that we have now, that the intent is to finish up on September the 2nd. Am I reading the schedule correctly?
The goal really is to wrap the budget ideally on Wednesday, August
August
26th.
26th? Okay. It's on,
The goal will be, the September is fallback if we're not ready.
I got you.
I'm trying to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So again, looking at the schedule we have now, so on Wednesday, August 26th, we'll do the county clerk, register of deeds, and have the wrap up.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we're doing county clerk because they're going to be really busy with the last one because they're going to be very busy with elections and they asked to be as late as possible. I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of Commissioner Middleton and historically of wrapping the end of August. That's the goal. Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, well, 2 points. The sheriff is at 11 o'clock. On our schedule, it was to be announced, but you've confirmed 11 o'clock for the sheriff. Whoops, you're muted, Helene.
That's what I have before me. Mike Andrews.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, we are correct on the 29th, the sheriff at 11.
That is correct, yes. Commissioner Middleton, you might have a draft number 1 that was sent out a couple days prior to that, just so that everybody could get a preliminary schedule, because a lot of commissioners were asking about it. But we did confirm with Under Sheriff McCabe. The sheriff did initially have a scheduling conflict on that day, and he requested to go in the afternoon, but he is able to be present at 11 o'clock on that day. That was confirmed.
Okay. Then I have the first draft at the other changes other than
Well, we should send out, Mike will send out something today so that everybody is on the same schedule, okay?
Yeah,
Because there
Madam
were
Chair.
some drafts.
Yeah, Madam Chair, what the commissioners will receive in the coming days, I can send out the schedule today, but they will also get that staff analysis, like you mentioned during the budget hearings this morning and yesterday. You'll be receiving those within probably the next 48 hours or so. And then in addition, there's been some other requested information as it pertains to references of budget pages and everything like that to the big book and the categorical. So we will get you all that information well in advance of next Wednesday.
Okay. Also, a comment to be done by the end of August. The executive has to prepare, and our staff has to prepare documents to get ready for the passing of the budget and write the resolution for the budget. So they need the month of September to do that. And that's why we've always had a goal of being done with our wrap up by the end of August. So, thank you.
Absolutely, it's a great goal and great standard to follow, and that's the ideal. So we appreciate it. I really, yes, Commissioner Quarles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I meant to ask earlier. I do have my big book. That's what I've been following along with. Do we have categoricals this year? Or did I miss it?
Joanne sent out an email last week that they are available, and I went to pick up mine, but if you can't, they are in our mailboxes and you can enter the building and pick it up. But if you can't.
Yeah, I did that. I entered the building to pick up the big book. I apologize. I guess I should have looked in my mailbox. So that's where the categorical.
They weren't, hey,
They weren't
Commissioner
there when we got
Quarles,
the
they
big-
weren't there when you picked up the big book. And I went yesterday and I couldn't get in with my card, so I wanted to pick it up. So make sure our cards are working, whoever's out there. I don't know why I couldn't get in.
Yeah, if I can, you can get in till 3 p.m.
Oh, I was at 10 to 5. Okay.
Yeah, get in till
I
3
was like,
p.m.
darn it. Yeah.
The categorical book came about, I think about a week and a half after the budget book was delivered. So if you came in to get your budget book, you wouldn't have gotten your categorical book when you came in. If you're not planning on coming in, we can always mail that if it's inconvenient or you can't come in. Just let us know.
So just
It's
so that.
a little bit
let
smaller.
everyone know, Chris Ward, what time can we come to and from? To 3 p.m., but what time can we get in there in the morning?
You know, I don't know if Joanne is on. I think it's 10 a.m. to 3. But,
Okay, because I went yesterday before, trying to get it before today's, but it was late. Okay, thank you.
I can confirm that and get that out to you.
Madam Chair, one other thing, commissioners, is we can also send you the link, because it is up on the website. So you could have it both electronically, and if you choose to come in, we can get, there'll be that option as well, so.
Pam wanted to offer something.
Megan's in the office today, so if you want them mailed to you, she can mail them out today, if that'll help.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I want to thank the committee. This is a whole new world of conducting budget hearings via go-to meetings. And, we're the logistics, I have all these things in front of me, multiple, computers, phone, books. It's a different world. So I appreciate all of you, everything that you're doing, and our staff. You have been amazing, as we move forward, doing what could have been the impossible, but I appreciate everybody and their intent. So any other questions, comments? Thank you, everybody. Finance hearings are